Whenever there's a combat scenario, you always have the frontline guys doing all the fun stuff like shooting, bombing, demolishing, along with some other horrible things. But to make all that possible, someone needs to work hard in the background to provide access, supplies, and establish strong defensive positions. That's why I want you to meet Del, probably the most notable and recognizable engineer within the gaming culture. Maybe not by his name because it's never mentioned in the actual game. From his appearance to his gameplay, it's unmistakable. He is the ultimate engineer who has inspired many other game characters and will likely continue to do so for a long time. In this video, I want to look at those that came after the TF2 Engineer and see if they are better, worse, or if they managed to bring something new to the table. And for that, we will look at Torbjörn from Overwatch 2 and Barik from Paladins. And before you say that there's also the Deep Rock Galactic Engineer, I know, but for this video I want to analyze characters from games similar to Team Fortress 2. Look, this guy even has a TF2 skin. Deep Rock Galactic is awesome and the engineer is my favorite class. Actually, it's the only class I play. And we do have an honorable mention section towards the end of the video. And this is not a TF2 versus Overwatch kind of video. We are going to compare the characters and how they play within their own universe. Now, with that out of the way, let's check out the schematics. Everything will be rated from 1 to 5 ranges and we will look at how much utility they bring to their team, how adaptable and customizable their build is, how capable they are to fend for themselves, and lastly, how good their engineering is. In other words, how much cool stuff they can build and use. Let's start with the Team Fortress 2 Engineer. He is mainly a defensive class that focuses on providing area denial and utility. Actually, he is the defensive class in TF2. He is so good at it that in most cases the entire opposite team needs to coordinate in order to take out a well-placed defensive position. When it comes to utility, the engineer can heal, constantly replenish ammo, ensure quick access to the front line for his team, and set up defensive perimeters. In the context of TF2, he is indispensable since he brings so much to the table, and he is able to do all of it by deploying, upgrading, and maintaining his buildings. You can see how much thought was put into designing him to play like an actual engineer. He is not just for show. The first building on our list is the teleporter. Easy to overlook and underestimate. This is one of the strongest buildings when used properly. It basically does what it says, teleports you from point A to point B. It can be upgraded to level 3, which will increase its HP and recharge time. Building and maintaining a teleporter often wins matches because it prevents your team from losing precious time while traveling to the objective, and it helps in maintaining pressure on the enemy team. Teleporters are useful in both defensive and offensive scenarios, even if it may be a bit tedious to rebuild or move them each time the spawn point changes. Moving on, we have the dispenser, another great utility building that is literally a lifesaver for the entire team. If placed correctly, it can provide a lot of sustain and infinite ammo to your front line. In TF2, only the medic and the engineer can heal, and it's quite hard for most classes to replenish their health on the front line. Their only option is to pick up health packs or just eat a sandwich. It can be upgraded 3 times and each upgrade increases its maximum HP and it speeds up the health and ammo regeneration, along with how much metal it generates. It plays a crucial role in keeping your team alive and well supplied on the front line. Paired with a teleporter, it effectively complements the engineer's utility arsenal. And speaking of arsenal, the last building on our list is the sentry, or better said, the sentries, since you have the mini sentry and the regular sentry that can be upgraded 3 times, and each stage can have its own purpose for various playstyles. This is the signature building for the engineer. It's the only building highlighted in Meet the Engineer trailer and the one that became a standard for other characters inspired by him. The sentry gun is basically a glass cannon. Its damage output is solid, but it's very vulnerable if left unattended. Again, we can see that the focus here was to make the engineer synergize with his builds, making him shine when he's upgrading and maintaining them. A sentry gun can finish off most classes in a matter of seconds if caught unprepared, but it can also be destroyed easily if the opposing team already knows its location, and because of that the engineer always needs to plan ahead and figure out efficient building placement. An engineer separated from his sentry is as vulnerable as a lonely sentry without an engineer to tend for it. But when you bring the two together, you have enough firepower and resourcefulness to withstand relentless enemy attacks. Even if the engineer is designed to function within a team, he is very capable of holding his own ground if necessary. If the enemy team is not that coordinated, you will be able to secure certain positions until your team regroups. Because of the large array of available weapons, the TF2 Engineer is highly adaptable, and despite being perceived as a mainly defensive class, he is very capable in offense as well. He is by far the most customizable character on our list. He can be a bit overpowered when it comes to certain items like the Wrangler, but that can only earn him extra points when it comes to the context of this video. The Battle Engineer build will make you more deadly on the front lines while also providing the same amount of utility to your team. The fast deploying mini sentry, it's easy to move around and can help in securing and maintaining key areas while constantly being on the go. You can have a more aggressive playstyle with the regular sentry as well. If you use the Jag, it can quickly build a sentry, and when placed in the right spot, it can literally wreak havoc on unsuspecting enemies. This is just scratching the surface, since his whole arsenal includes loads of primary and secondary weapons along with different wrenches that offer loads of opportunities to customize your playstyle in various ways. And if you don't trust me, just ask Uncle Dane. He has about a decade of videos about the engineer and the many ways in which you can play him. As you can see, the TF2 Engineer excels in each area, being able to provide utility and support to his team by carefully placing his buildings and maintaining them. The focus was set on making him function well within the team while he synergizes with his buildings. The engineer is not the strongest class, and it doesn't need to be. He is perfectly placed at the core of his team, and for that he is getting 5 out of 5 wrenches on all aspects. He is the embodiment of the engineer in these types of games, from his looks to his overall gameplay. Moving on to our next contender, Torbjörn from Overwatch 2. He is a bit different compared to the others, as he had a rework where they completely changed his role and the way he plays. Initially, he was more similar to the TF2 Engineer, being more focused on providing utility to his team by offering armor packs and area denial through his upgradable turret. For this video, we will look at his present kit, where they removed his ability to upgrade his turret and throw armor packs. He is now a damage hero, being more self-reliant, while his turret is used as a support fire or to cover the backlines. I feel like the rework took away his identity as an engineer. Even if he is more powerful by himself, that's not the point. He is just another damage character now, somehow focused on area denial by using his turret and his ultimate. But it's very situational, since his turret is not upgradable and it's very fragile. It seems like he is only conditioned to the Battle Engineer playstyle, since his turret is more comparable to the mini sentry from TF2 and he is slightly tankier due to his overload ability. Even if his rivet gun is adaptable and can be used effectively at long and close range, his playstyle is still limited, with no option to customize it in any way. Each time you jump into a game, you will be doing the exact same thing. If the enemy team has a different composition, you can't do much to adapt to it. You are just another damage hero that can probably be replaced by others that might do a better overall job. I'm not saying that he is a bad hero in the context of Overwatch. He can be quite strong when utilized properly, and depending on the nerfs and buffs they make, he can be quite meta. It just feels like a wasted opportunity, and it's not like they missed the mark entirely when designing him. His initial kit was more in line with the overall engineer gameplay, and it made more sense. He seems pretty situational with his current abilities, and if you are constantly being focused by the enemy team, you will have a really bad time. Higher mobility heroes can cause quite a lot of issue, and if overload is on cooldown, you can go down pretty fast. His rivet gun seems pretty good when it comes to picking up targets from a distance and suppressing the enemy through choke points. He can melt tanks pretty fast, and the ult fire can quickly dispatch anyone that gets too close. Considering all of the above, the current version of Torbjörn feels stripped of his identity as an engineer, turning him into a slightly tanky DPS without utility and playstyle variety. He gets one wrench when it comes to utility, since they took that away from him. When it comes to adaptability, he gets 3 out of 5 because he is able to adapt from long range to close quarters efficiently, but other than that, you don't have any other options to customize his gameplay. He is able to fend for himself in most situations if he has his abilities ready, and for that I feel like he gets 5 out of 5 when it comes to dependability. If his turret is well placed, he can be quite efficient in taking out enemies by himself and holding his ground. Lastly, he gets a solid 3 out of 5 ranges when it comes to engineering, as he can only build a non-upgradable turret that deploys quite fast and has a long range. Other than building and repairing it, he's not doing much engineering, and the only synergy he has with his building is to place it strategically to cover certain angles or to prevent any flanking enemies. The turret is very fragile, and you rather want to be in front of it in order to use it effectively. His overall score as an engineer is 3 out of 5 ranges. And remember that this is not an indicator of how effective he is in the current Overwatch 2 meta or anything. This review was made through a very specific angle, and I thought that making up the range rating system was a good visual representation instead of just talking about the weak and strong points of each character. But let me know if you think that it was a good idea in the comments. I do appreciate any feedback, negative or positive. And if you're still watching and enjoying the video, please consider liking and subscribing, as it will help me a lot as a channel that is just getting started. With that out of the way, let's move on to our next character, which is Barik from Paladins. This was actually the first time I picked up this game, even though I knew about it for years. I was just scrolling through Steam one day and I saw this TF2 Engineer skin for Barik, and that finally convinced me to try it out. And I must admit that it was quite fun. Not sure what caused it to lose popularity, but it seems pretty underrated nowadays. If you used to play back in the day when it was more popular and know what happened, let us know in the comments, as it will be interesting to find out. Paladins has abilities similar to a MOBA game, but plays like TF2. It's an interesting combination that somehow works. Barik is a tanky engineer specialized in area control and providing utility to his team by setting up protective barriers. Surprisingly, he also has the rocket boots ability, which gives him a dash, making him the only engineer that has this type of mobility in combat. His primary ability and weapon is the blunderbuss, which damages the enemies in a short range. This can be adapted for longer range combat by using the tinkering talent. The secondary ability is the barricade, which sets up a large shield that protects you and your allies from damage. Next, we have his standard turrets, which are not upgradable, but you can have 2 of them active at once. You cannot repair them, but we will see that you have some cards that will heal them when you are nearby. You are also healed when you stand near your turrets with the right build, so it kinda works like repairing. This way, they also act like the TF2 dispensers for yourself. His third ability is a mobility one, allowing him to charge forward. With a certain build, this ability can also grant a shield that will either allow you for a fast escape or grant some more survivability in combat. Finally, his ultimate places a protective dome shield with a flamethrower turret in the middle that damages enemies in the area. This feels really strong when you combine it with your other turrets. You can really make a difference when it comes to moving in on objectives or holding your ground. He has 3 different playstyles through his talents. Forge Fire is the build that specializes on his turrets, allowing him to have 2 regular ones and 2 flamethrower turrets at once. Tinkering is the build that increases your overall damage output and makes your blunderbuss hit harder and more precisely at long range. It feels like this is how the Plamson from TF2 should feel. I really like the idea of having a medium to long range option when it comes to primary weapons. The Plamson projectile speed is way too slow to be relevant. This build feels nice to play in combination with the rocket boots upgrade, making you more mobile and tanky and allowing you to be more self-reliant. His third talent option is Fortify, the full tank build, focusing on empowering your barricades and allowing you to deploy them faster. Versatility doesn't seem to be a problem here, as you have different cards to choose from and you can either select the standard ones for each talent path or build custom ones to fit your playstyle. Plus, you also buy items as you do in League or Dota, which adds up to the way you can customize your build. It's very simplified, but it still offers some more variety. It seems like the vision is there, as he feels like an engineer when you play him. You are constantly placing your turrets around the map in order to give you the upper hand in teamfights, and you are able to defend or push objectives effectively if you coordinate with your team. It would have been nice to have the option to play as a more supportive role, maybe to have his turrets also heal teammates. Given the amount of customizability that is available in this game, I feel like he should have the option to offer more utility to his team. Overall, Barik is a solid engineer and I had a lot of fun playing him in the last couple of weeks. I was sometimes surprised by the amount of damage that he can do and his ability to dig in and defend objectives. Let's bring up the schematics and see how he stands in comparison with the other two. When it comes to utility, he gets 3 out of 5 ranges because he is only able to provide cover for his team. I feel like there is a lost opportunity since he is not able to heal his teammates as well. In terms of customization, there are loads of options given the talent and card systems. Even if you are kind of filling the same role, you have loads of options to customize your build, as you also have the purchasable items. He gets 5 out of 5 here. Barik is very capable of defending objectives by himself and also wins skirmishes. His mobility, tankiness and damage output give him a lot of survivability. I think that his turrets could have been a bit stronger, as they don't seem as impactful as the TF2 ones, but I guess that each game has its meta. I'd say that a solid 4 out of 5 ranges in terms of dependability is just right. Finally, when it comes to engineering, Barik is doing a decent job. He can build 2 types of turrets, lay down protective barriers and also use his rocket boots. All this seemed to fit very well with his class. It would have been interesting to see different types of buildings besides sentries. It seems like all the other games that created engineer characters only kept the sentry as a building, and for that he is getting 4 out of 5 at this point, leaving him with an overall score of 4 out of 5 ranges, placing him second on our list. But before we wrap this up, honorable mention, the Deep Rock Galactic Engineer. To keep it short, he is just awesome. He is not included with the others because Deep Rock Galactic is PvE only and it plays differently. You complete objectives in these procedurally generated caves while constantly being attacked by waves of bugs. But he is also a miner, which involves a wide range of additional tasks, like maintaining and building infrastructure to aid in exploiting the natural resources of these hostile planets. His role is to provide support to his team either through setting up platforms and bridges to points of interest or by securing the perimeter with his sentry guns and firepower. Because these caves are treacherous and filled with all kinds of deadly enemies, he has a wide array of weapons and tools at his disposal. Smart guns, nukes, plasma guns that will shred anything to pieces. You name it, his weapons perfectly complement his kit. You can mix and match weapons, perks, upgrades and overloads and construct a build to handle pretty much any situation. Everything in his arsenal is customizable and can have different builds. He's also probably one of the best classes when it comes to solo mode. When it comes to his sentries, he can have 2 standard ones or a single LMG gun with more damage and range. This can be moved around easily as you just need to indicate where you want it to be placed and it will just go to the specified location on its own. You just need to build it. They are pretty low maintenance as they just need to be refueled with ammo from time to time and are not damageable by enemies. The ability to customize your gameplay is one of the strongest aspects when it comes to this game. It creates an evergreen experience that has you exploring a certain class for hours on end without getting bored. The Deep Rock Galactic Engineer is a benchmark within the co-op shooter genre, as the TF2 Engineer is the baseline for the PvP shooter games, and that's why he also gets 5 out of 5 ranges for each point without a doubt. In conclusion, I feel like all the characters that were discussed in this video were interesting in their own way and I had fun playing all of them. While some managed to keep me engaged longer than the others, I feel like I discovered some new games and characters that I will get back to from time to time. I know that my rating system might not be perfect, but don't hesitate to leave some feedback in the comments below. I would like to hear your opinion as well. Thanks for watching and see you on the next one.